I now call Graham Simpson to make a short contribution on behalf of the Delegated Powers and Law Reform Committee. Mr Simpson.
Thank you very much. I'm speaking in my capacity as the convener of the Delegated Powers and Law Reform Committee. We published our report on the LCM for the bill on the 17th of November last year. It's effectively an interim report, and we're continuing to consider issues arising out of the bill. The bill confers wide and significant powers on ministers, both Scottish ministers and UK ministers, and the committee took the view that although it's unpalatable to have such wide powers, it's difficult to conceive of a different way to make the changes necessary to provide for a working statute book. Basically, if this was any other bill, then the committee would have said it was unacceptable that such wide powers should be conferred on ministers. But the unique nature of the circumstances that give rise to the bill and the short timescale in which regulations must be made makes the conferring of wide powers unavoidable, in our view. At the same time, the committee took the view that the powers as drafted are currently too wide. They provide too much scope for ministers to use them to make changes they consider appropriate rather than ones that are necessary, and open the possibility that they could be used to make policy changes. The committee's also suggested that the powers should be limited to protect constitutional statutes. Currently, the Northern Ireland Act 1998 is protected under the bill, but the protection is not extended to other constitutional statutes, including the Scotland Act 1998. The committee understands that that Scotland Act is currently subject to amendment by secondary legislation. Critically, however, that secondary legislation is subject to scrutiny in the Scottish Parliament. The committee's recommended that amendments to the Scotland Act using powers under this bill should similarly be subject to scrutiny in the Scottish Parliament. The committee also considered the different legislative routes that instruments in devolved areas under the bill might follow. I'm going to focus on the process for UK ministers making regulations in devolved areas. We were particularly concerned about the absence of a process for UK ministers to have to obtain the consent of Scottish ministers before legislating in devolved areas, and this, of course, has been a key area of concern for everyone. The committee believes that the bill would be strengthened by such a process, and it is disappointing that amendments to provide for this have not yet been agreed. Further to that, the committee considers that there should also be a process for the Scottish ministers to be held to account for their decision to consent. So I welcome this debate today, Presiding Officer, and I look forward to continuing to considering the bill and to developing our thinking.
I will now move on to